Hello everybody and welcome to my talk. My talk is titled Spotting Opportunities for Automation in Testing. Nice and succinct. But what it really is about is how can we go about spotting and identifying these areas or opportunities where we can automate to make testing easier or to make it more efficient. So in our context, we're talking about automation in the context of testing. So traditionally that's viewed as things like automated test, automated checks. But what I'm going to talk about in this talk is things that are slightly different, things that we can do that we can use our technical skills, our coding skills, our tools, but to support other aspects of testing or just to help us go along the way. And I'm going to do that by using my giant whiteboard, which I've not had a chance to use yet. I've also got a new microphone and a camera, so if this doesn't work very well, c'est la vie, we're giving it a go. But yeah, if you've not seen me talk in front of a whiteboard before, I've got a YouTube channel called Whiteboard Testing, and that's kind of the inspiration. I've not had a whiteboard for a number of years now since due to moving house. Now I do, so I'm going to try and start them off again, and I thought, why not do my SourceCon talk using the whiteboard? So let's get into it. So as I said, this is about spotting opportunities. So if you think of day-to-day testing activities, and there's a lot of aspects that we go through. If we're doing the manual testing or the exploratory testing, or even our way of going about creating automated tests, there's lots of steps to that process. And there's a thing that we look at within the automation and testing namespace called task analysis. And this is basically the fancy word for breaking down the steps involved in trying to achieve something. And that's typically what we do when we build an automated test. We think of the steps that we might want to implement. Let's talk about like a UI scenario. We go through this process. The user's going to do this. They're going to go to this page. They're going to fill in these fields, and then they're going to do this and click that, and they're going to assert this. That's task analysis, the breaking down of those steps. But we can do the same when it comes to other aspects of testing. So we're going to look at those, and I'm going to give you 6, maybe 7, not sure exactly yet, heuristics to help you go about doing those. So the first one is repetition. And my spelling is absolutely atrocious, so I'm probably going to mess up a few times, but it is what it is. So as I said, the first one is repetition. And what we're trying to get you to think about here is, think of times within the context of testing that you've done something before, or something that you have to keep repeating. And perhaps use that as a trigger to go, I've done this before. Why am I doing this again? And then go forward and then maybe look at the opportunities that you might have. So a common scenario could be setting up a test environment. It could be setting up your local machine ready for testing. People like to have their favorite screenshot tools open. You might open a terminal to connect to various machines. You might start some sort of debugging tool. You might open dev tools. You might start a proxy. I can go on and on and on, right? But once you spot these repetitive tasks, maybe there's tools out there you can use to automate. For example, when I start my day at work, I have to open Chrome, go to various tabs, open my Gmail, open Slack. I'll probably open Spotify, open TweetDeck. I'm a big tweeter if you don't want to follow me on Twitter, @FriendlyTester. But I open all these things and it's the same processes each day. So therefore, if I can automate that using something, for example, like Alfred app, then I could maybe save myself some time. And that's the idea behind this repetition. If it's something that you feel you've done before, let's have a look to see if we can automate it. So test data, great example. If I'm going into a database or going into some API tool to go and call a load of APIs to create data, can I turn that into an automated script? Could be I reuse some of my API automated tests. I can take a part of that and I can reuse it to build that data for me. It could be a bunch of saved SQL statements. Maybe I turn them into a seed file and I build myself a bash script that just runs that file for me and adds that data into the database. Again, it's about spotting these things that we've done before, this repetition, and then looking at trying to automate that. So yeah, that's the idea behind the first one, repetition. So the second one we're going to look at is shadowing. So the idea here is that we pair with other members of our team. Could be additional, could be other testers, could be developers, could be a product owner, could be a designer. But the idea is we're pairing with another member of our team. And fantastic things happen when we pair. So I could be sat next to one of my developers, and they do this incredible thing. If you ever want to learn an IDE, pair with a developer. So let's take IntelliJ as an example. I'm sat with my developer, we're using IntelliJ, and they're typing some code, and then you suddenly see them press F9, F12, minus, control, command, do a twirl, and boom, like load of code gets generated. Where do they get these shortcuts from? But if you shadow with someone, you start to pick them up. So that's the idea here behind shadowing. So the idea here is that we are shadowing another user as they are doing their kind of testing. So this is what we mean by shadowing. Let's make it a bit colorful, let's give them nice colorful tops. There we go. So this is my attempt at drawing shadowing. So for the reason why this isn't a great opportunity to spot this is why this is a great heuristic to spot opportunities for automation, because they will know shortcuts that you've not seen before. So you might be able to spot opportunities there which you can take back to your own work. Another great example here is you might have skills or experiences or knowledge of certain tools that the person you're pairing with or shadowing doesn't have. So you might watch someone struggle with something like an SQL tool to try and generate some data, and there's a better tool out there. So you can advise them about that. You can recommend that tool to them. You might see them doing a bunch of steps, a bunch of repetitive steps, and have recommendations and suggestions on how they can do that slightly differently. You only get that benefit and that power when you shadow with somebody else, and you can then start to transfer some of that existing knowledge. And it doesn't just have to be with other technical minded people. I've paired with designers who have recommended shortcuts to me, simple websites for things like getting hex codes and HTML and RS, what's it called, the color code? RSB, I believe, color things for able to do stuff in a browser. They know Chrome extensions that make it easier to test certain aspects. I remember a designer who showed me kind of the ruler thing that you can turn on in Chrome DevTools to start to see if things were aligned, instead of me sitting there going, is that online? I'm not entirely sure. There's all these benefits and all these tools that we know of, because we can only pick up so much. A lot of you are very active in the community. You're probably on reading books, watching talks, being part of Slack channels, being on social media. You're all picking up knowledge in there, but when you're sat with someone, be it remotely or in physical, you can just start to pick up. It's easier to transfer that knowledge. So yeah, if you've not tried shadowing with someone to start sharing your automation and your technical know-how and your tool knowledge, fantastic way of spotting opportunities to automate that are going to make you more efficient. And if we're more efficient, we're usually quicker, which in turn save money and time. But with that time, we can reinvest that in other aspects of testing. So yeah, if you've not tried shadowing someone, give it a go. Our next one is a sad face. Let's see if I can draw this properly. I'm looking at my own other screen. Oh, that's a terrible drawing, that, Richard. Terrible drawing. But it's basically, oh geez. And I'm not going to say this next bit, but it basically goes, oh geez, not that again. And it's basically that feeling, that emotion we get when it comes to doing some kind of part of our work. And obviously we're in a testing conference here, so I'm going to use testing as an example. But when you get that feeling like, oh God, not this again. Oh, that's a sign that you're doing something that isn't really enjoyable. It's something that you're probably not going to find mentally challenging. You're probably not going to learn anything. It's this tedious task that nobody wants to do. Automate it. Listen to that emotion and go about trying to automate it. And it could be a scenario. Perhaps you have test cases in your organization and it's that one test case that you just don't want. Pick it up, listen to that emotion, and let's sit down and see what we can do. So let's imagine that it's a test that we don't want to run. It's tedious, it's slow, there's lots of things that can go wrong, it's a legacy system, building the state and the data is just awful. Break it down into small little pieces of the puzzle. What are all the steps that we have to do along the way? And let's just see if we can automate any of them. So we know we've got to do all these things. We could try and build an automated test for the whole thing, right? It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to be quite difficult. Perhaps we don't have that much time. And if it was that simple, why has nobody done it already? So perhaps we can just decide to automate a little bit of it. Perhaps we automate that bit and we automate that bit. Now there, I can't count. Well, let's just do 10 for ease of math. So we have 10 steps. I've automated 2 of them. I've made it 20% easier to now go about doing this scenario, this activity, which just might make me feel a little bit better. Not so much, just a little bit, but that's the point we're trying to get at here. Just listen to that emotion and consider, what can I do to make this better for me and my team? And if you don't have those skills to do it yourself, again, listen to the emotion to bring the team in. What aspects of testability and automatability, which is our ability to test and our ability to automate, can we improve by listening to this emotion, having some conversations, and having a plan of action to potentially try and automate some of this scenario, just to remove that general feeling of, ah. So that's kind of what the OGs one relates to. Let's move on to our next one. Let's see if I can draw a nice watch. You know what? That's not bad. That's not a bad watch. That's not a bad watch. Look at that. Yeah, you pay good money for that watch. All right, but our next one is about time. Right? Time, the limited resource that we all have. So the thing around this and spotting opportunities to automate here is just what activities, what scenarios in your company, in your context, just take a long time. You know, is it deploying to a test environment? Is it building a test environment? They can traditionally be quite slow, especially if there's a lot of pieces and a lot of parts to build. What could you do there to speed that up? Could be creating data. Data is often a slow thing. I worked at an organization where our database was an absolute mess. So creating data was a very slow process. And we used to have this long, it's quite embarrassing in a way, but it was a long time ago now. It was about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. We used to have this 2-week testing phase, but that's what it was. And we ran through nearly 90 odd scenarios on 12 mobile devices. And then it took a long time. And what I did is I actually did this. I broke down the process. And we've discovered that we were spending nearly 60-70% of our time creating data. So therefore, to get that time back, I thought, you know what? I'll automate all these scenarios. Instead of all this slow testing phase, manual efforts, I'll automate it all. And this was 2013, 2014. It was a mobile app. The tools were not there yet. And it was a very tedious attempt. I tried to get Appium up and running, but it really wasn't the time to be trying to do a lot of stuff around that. The tools were on their way, but they were just a lot of intermittent issues, a lot of setup, a lot of flakiness. And the tools have got much better now. But I knew that, so I didn't try and battle with it. I said, you know what? The tools aren't quite ready. What else can I do? So we realized that data was the thing that was taking our time. So instead, we automated the process of creating data. We were creating data via an admin portal on the screen, so we automated the admin portal using Selenium. It was such a simple process, and it took half an evening, like half a day, into the evening, to automate all the scenarios via the UI to create all that data. So I'm not saying that that's a sensible approach, right? We don't want to be writing scripts that automate a UI to create test data, but in the context that I was in, there was no API, the database was a mess. So I mimicked what we were doing, which was filling in the UI, filling in the forms to create the data that appeared in the app. So I automated it using Selenium. I saved us nearly 60-70% of that period of time. So this 2 weeks that it took us to do this regression testing, this release testing, came down to nearly 3 days. So that's an incredible amount of time saved. And as I mentioned, time is money. We then got to spend those other 7 days improving our technical skills, improving the app's testability, running workshops on how we can get better quality in our app, reading customer reviews in the App Store, doing other aspects of testing, accessibility, exploratory testing. We were able to do that because we realized what was taking our time, and we tried to automate just a bit of it, not the whole thing. So listen to the kind of things that are taking your time, and then maybe you can automate some of them. The next one is steps. So I'm going to draw steps up here because I'm going off my own screen. So steps. And it kind of ties into some of the examples I've given already, but this specific scenario came from working in the web space. So if you're working if you're working on a website where you have to go through a lot of screens to get to some of the, the real guts of the system. For example, I worked on a mortgage application, and in order to get to the decision whether you could have a mortgage, you had to fill in a lot of information. So if we made changes to that screen that showed you whether you were going to get a mortgage or not, to get to that screen, I would have to fill in my name. My name's Richard. I live at Testville in Testtown. We've all been there. This is my salary. This is my experience. Here's my previous 45 addresses. I've uploaded 95 pay slips. All this tedious information to get to the screen in order to see the changes that were there. Now, this is an interesting approach because in this team, we had a full set of automated tests that went through that whole process. Filling all that details, filling in details, expecting a yes for the mortgage, expecting a rejection, expecting a decision to be made later. We had all that scenarios automated. So I just wanted to do some exploratory testing on this new feature. So what I did is I took my automated tests, which went from the very start, in terms of like starting the test, all the way to an assertion. And what I did is I just got rid of the last step. I got it to stop here. And then I told Selenium to run this 50 times. And I went to make a cup of tea, because I'm British and that's what we do. I told Selenium to run this, open 50 browsers, get me as far as this step, and then just leave it. And when I came back, I had 50 browsers on the step where I got to enter my finances, which meant the next stage was the decision page, and I saved myself a ton of time. I was able to run through 50 different test ideas that I had in my head really quickly without filling in all that tedious information. Because the tedious information didn't matter. I just needed to get to this step. So therefore, I took existing automation that we had, I wrote a simple test, wrapped it in a loop, ran it 50 times, boom, 50 browsers open, ready for me to go about doing my exploratory testing. So that's kind of the idea behind these steps. We don't always have to automate the whole thing, the whole test case or the whole test idea. We can take existing pieces of our framework and our work and also use them to build new tools to assist with other aspects of testing. And in this instance, it was exploratory testing, get me to a certain point in our application, and then allow me to continue my testing from there. Real time saver, saved me a lot of time. And the next one, as you're listening to my talk, hopefully you're not feeling this, but let's do someone who is asleep. They're curled up in bed, having a good nap. They're miserable while they sleep. Let's put a little eye mask on them. There we go. Having a little sleep. That's someone in sleep. Definitely someone asleep, not someone sunbathing with sunglasses on. But this idea of being bored. So I'm a passionate tester. I am well into the world of software and testing and quality, right? I love it. It makes me incredibly happy to do work in this space. However, there is certain testing that I've had to do in the past that is just boring. I know the answers. I'm probably not going to learn anything. There's no excitement. I'm not expecting to learn anything. I know it's probably just going to be okay, but you have to go through the motions because that needs to be ticked off. It could be for an audit reason. It could be for test reporting. It could be for anything. And it's really boring. It makes me feel like disengaged. I'm not enjoying the work. Same as the OGs. Let's listen to that. Let's listen to that emotion. Let's listen to that feeling, and let's go about automating it. So if you're feeling bored with the type of testing you're doing, the reason why I say consider automating it is it's probably not mentally challenging. And if it's not mentally challenging, let's get a little army of little robots, little android robots, going about, oh, look at this. Yeah, you've never seen skills like this. Oh, there we go. Let's get our little army of robots going about automating this for us, because if it's not stimulating us, we know what the steps are, they're not challenging. We know what the assertions are, we know what the oracles are, that's not challenging. Give it to a robot, because the robots are dumb. And if it's that kind of testing that's making us bored, it's probably the dumb kind of testing that we're better off giving to a robot. So let's do that. Let's either make time ourselves if we have the skills to automate that, or share this feelings back to the team and get one of them or one of the members of the team who has those technical skills to automate these scenarios for us, so that we can then do other aspects of testing that are more enjoyable, more entertaining, and more likely to generate information that our team are actually really interested in. And also, these little robots are much quicker than I am. They can go away and they can run as fast as they can, get that rapid feedback back to the team. And that ties in nicely with all these things that I've listed here. The idea here that we're trying to get, and the reason why we want to look at these opportunities for automation, is we want rapid feedback. The sooner, you probably can't see that very well on the screen, but the sooner that we get this rapid feedback, the sooner we get this feedback, this information that our team needs to make decisions such as, should we release, can we progress, can we close that ticket? I'm not the gatekeeper for those decisions. That's not up to me. That's a team decision, but we do that based on having information. So the sooner we can get this feedback, the more rapid it is, the quicker we can make those decisions, we can get our products out there, we can get our customers using them, we can get that feedback from our customers, we can get that sales money, we can get all that good stuff, the faster we can do that. And manual testing, exploratory testing is never going to go away. So what we need to do now going forward is utilize all these fantastic technical skills that you've all built up by using it to build all these automated tests and automated checks and all these other fantastic aspects of automation. Take all that tool knowledge and let's use it to support some of these other types of testing that are taking place, because you can speed it up, you can make it more efficient. Think of it as giving these exploratory testers a set of tools to make them even better, to make them super testers, little tools that are all around them, little superpowers that just allow them to go further, deeper and quicker. That's what we need to do next, and that's what I feel is the way forward for a lot of this automation we have. Because building up these hundreds and thousands of automated checks is great, but there's still this other side of testing that ain't going to go away, and we can help them a hell of a lot by following some of these heuristics. So repetition, shadowing to see what other people are doing, to learn from them, but also to make recommendations. The steps heuristic, think of the steps that you're going through to run these types of tests. The OG's emotion. Oh God, that testing again. Listen to that, automate it. Look at what's taking your time. Consider whether that can be shortened by the use of tools and the use of automation. And this concept of this awesome sunbathing sunglasses dude who's actually asleep bored. This idea of being bored in testing, it shouldn't be. Testing is about gathering information. It's about learning. So if you're feeling bored, get your little army of robots out and maybe you can automate that. So I hope you enjoyed the talk. I hope the whiteboard was fun. I'm going to definitely bring back my YouTube channel, which is Whiteboard Testing. And if you want to stay in touch with me, you can find me throughout the Ministry of Testing community, as well as @FriendlyTester on Twitter. And I hope you enjoy the rest of SourceCon and hopefully see you all in some physical space soon. Bye for now.